Hey, and welcome back. You have asked some brilliant questions. Have we really found evidence of ET? What are they saying? How, why, where, and when is all this being funded? And best question of all, where's the proof? So today, join me on a really deep dive into looking at the facts. Is this actually true? What's going on? So if you're seeing this film first, you need to go back and watch part one, where I was told that SETI at Home, a piece of software which you probably ran on your computer as a screensaver, actually found 18 extraterrestrial technological signals, probably back in the early 2000s. But none of that is new. It's happened before. Meet Jocelyn Bell. Jocelyn was a graduate student working at the Radio Astronomy Telescope in Cambridge. One day, with this field of beanpoles, she found a repeating mechanical signal. She told her superior, the project leader, Dr. Hewish, and he thought it might be LGM, Little Green Men. It was an amazing discovery, and it really put the willy up the Cambridge radio astronomy team. They went behind closed doors with men from the ministry, men from the university, men from and no women. Jocelyn, who found the signal, was excluded, while the suited gentlemen in Cambridge were discussing how to reveal to the world, or if we should reveal to the world, that we found little green men. Jocelyn Bell went back to the now vacant radio telescope and used a fantastic piece of logic. She figured out if the pulsar that she found was unique, it was probably an alien civilization. If the same type of signal was all over the visible universe, it was probably a natural phenomenon. So she went and switched it all on and found another one. Eventually the men in suits came out of their meeting and Jocelyn said, "There's more than one." And finding another in a different part of our universe meant it was unlikely to be alien. They widened their search, and after a few weeks, a few months, they found over 15 of these sources. Jocelyn's Professor Hewish went on to win a Nobel Prize for Jocelyn's discovery of pulsars. These are collapsed stars that rotate and send out a lighthouse beam, and we hear them as woof, woof. Now, they're all over the universe. They rotate at different speeds, but they are the same type. But that's not what SETI at Home found. They did not find a source from a star. They found a technological signal from a planet orbiting a distant star in our galaxy. That's very different. So let me go over again how they found it using this term Doppler. Now, I used the analogy of this, the police car going, whoa, and we've all heard that. But a number of you asked, well, that wouldn't work in space because there's no air. Obviously, a police siren is a vibrational source and it makes our ears vibrate because it transmits the siren sound through our air. No, Doppler shift, red shift, blue shift, works in space. Any object coming fast towards you, like a star or a police car, in any frequency, including in space, compresses the frequency, so it tends to get bluer. And then when it passes, we know the frequency of the siren decreases, or in light, it gets redder as it goes away. That's what they found. But they found more. When they were focused on the object, the distant planet, the solar system, they could also detect Doppler shift rotation of that planet. That's massive. Not only did they reveal the light, and then as Earth rotated, it faded, while they were focused on it, they saw Doppler shift internally in the source. The planet was spinning round, causing internal Doppler shift. That was an enormous clue. But please sir, why do aliens use radio? Well, they probably don't. I'm sure they're not using AM and FM radio. That would be incredible. They're a different species, if they exist, but they're probably sending data because data can be shared using some kind of frequency. The mobile phone network, which is letting you watch this now, or maybe you're watching it on Wi-Fi. Both are pretty alien to people only a few years ago. So the next question I got, which is great, is that a lot of people don't quite understand radio telescopes. Now this one, Jodrell Bank, part of Manchester University in Cheshire, is a classic older style radio telescope. It moves, it can tilt, it can rotate. There's no real advantage in a radio telescope looking at deep space being able to move just a few fractions of a degree here on Earth. It's a bit like people ask me all the time, should I put my telescope up on the roof, or is it just as good in the garden? It makes no difference, really. 20 feet up on the roof is irrelevant. Jodrell Bank, wonderful, and the other moving telescopes were actually mainly military projects that looked at stuff near Earth, like Sputnik, and actually a lot of them were radar dishes. Classic radio telescopes look like this. They're a field array, beam poles with strings of wire. That's exactly what Jocelyn Bell used to find pulsars. And they can move, because we move. The Earth rotates. So as the Earth rotates, for this fixed telescope, the source comes into view and we can analyze it for a few minutes as we pass it. And now I know what you're thinking. Wouldn't it be great if you could have multiple radio telescopes? So you've got one there, one there, one there, and one there. What effectively you would be building would be a giant radio telescope. Instead of having the resolution of one array, you could have the Earth as an array if you could network that together. That's what they're doing. But the question is, why? So trying to be a good journalist and digging into stuff for you and to answer the question, is this real? Look at this funding. The source of this information told me about this billion-dollar funding by the EU to build network telescopes. SKA, square kilometer arrays, and low-frequency telescopes are all being networked together to share their data for maybe one purpose. So that, of course, raises the next obvious question. With all these hundreds of people, even cleaning ladies working at telescopes in South Africa, Namibia, Australia, Holland, Manchester, and Germany, why doesn't the cleaning lady find a scrap of paper going, today we search for aliens, and tell the world about it? So that's a great question. Why am I only hearing from it, and why me, from this person who's very involved in the funding for joining telescopes together? And he said this, it was just the same as Jocelyn Bell and Little Green Men. You don't blab about it until you've got proof. But there was enough evidence to get EU, massively rich organization, to fund this global project, but run by the EU, not run by the Americans. Why? You'd imagine American scientists and governments would know all about this. So any government proving ET exists, maybe even communicating with them or getting some information from them, would be light years ahead of their competitors. So in a modern space race, talking to ET first would be very desirable. Why aren't the Americans doing it? Very interesting question. I keep on hearing the same answer. Science in America is very open-minded. Scientists in radio telescopes like Green Bank and all the other big facilities in the United States would love to be doing this, but they get funded by rather strange people in US government. And this goes back to the UFO UAP story. I keep hearing that upper echelon Pentagon and government funders and lobby groups are rather fundamentally Christian, much more than Europe is. And they worry that UFOs, UAP, and aliens are devils and angels. A very small number of very important people in the United States, not probably the scientists, are actually stopping research into UAP, UFO, and searching for aliens because they worry it would undermine their fundamental religion. But just look at this. This is a list of the organizations, the countries, the big business, and the money involved in EU doing a major project. It could be just the EU spending money. They like big science like CERN and ITER, the fusion project. So on your behalf, I asked the obvious question: what have they found? And this is the intriguing piece of information that I can share with you to close this film. They found modulation. They found a signal. Now, first of all, they found a planet buzzing with RF energy. Imagine you had a transistor radio on the moon and you were listening to the Earth. There would be thousands of radio stations and TV and military and Wi-Fi and phone networks. It would be very difficult to resolve anything. All that you would know is that the Earth is very technologically based. But actually hearing an individual signal, even Radio Luxembourg, would be very hard from, say, the moon with a radio. But using this wide field global network funded by the EU, my source tells me they've resolved some signals. He's telling me that they found discernible, unique information encoded in the global ET signal. What is it, says I? Decoding what they have found is a big part of this project. What he was prepared to say is their pictures, their data. What exactly alien ET pictures would look like is really fascinating. I hope what I've told you today is enough to convince you that massive funding is being spent on a mega project, a global EU-run telescope network. Why are they doing it? And when will they reveal what they found? The truth is out there.